Welcome to the No Ideas original podcast featuring Rob, Shannon, and Kenyatta. Tonight we have a very, very special episode. We are joined by Mr. David Pitt Conley, founding member of the group Surface. How you doing, Mr. Conley?
I'm doing great. What's up, guys?
What's up,
Man? It's a pleasure to have you. You know, to me, you have one of the most memorable, if not the most memorable, flute riffs at the beginning of a record. How often do you hear somebody say that to you? Do people tell you that often?
Now I'm messing it up.
There you go.
I haven't played that thing so long. Actually, we're in between shows. We haven't did any shows this year yet. So
Really?
our next show is coming up is going to be in May.
Okay.
That's so stupid not playing that riff right. That's crazy.
There you go. Right
I
there.
hear it all the time. Everybody says that.
Of course, because soon as you hear that flute riff, you know what's coming afterwards. That classic record. So tell us, how you end up getting into music and becoming a musician. Like, what influenced your musical journey?
I'll tell you what. It was, I think it had all to do with God because I went through all high school, all elementary school, and never picked up an instrument.
Oh, wow.
And I graduated from high school back at Trum. And when I graduated, I was just walking down the street, and a friend of mine, he had a flute. He had this flute, and he was trying to sell it for $25. So I didn't have $25 on me. So I said, hey, I'll give you 10. And he gave it to me for $10. Now, but at the time, to show you where my head was at the time, I was really a hustler. I looked at that pretty flute. It looked brand new. I said, I could sell this thing for $25 myself, and I'll make me a couple of dollars. That's where I was. Right. So, I was literally right around the corner from my house. So I took it on, went on home. It was only a block away. And I went down inside the basement, and I opened up the case, and I looked at it, and I was like, oh, man, look at this thing. So pretty. And then I figured out how to put it together because you have to put it in pieces. So you put
right. You got
joint on, and then you put the head joint on. And I figured that, and I said, how do you play this thing, And I knew that you play it like you blow into a bottle, because I used to blow into bottles all the time.
Okay.
So I just put it on my mouth, and I just said, I'm like, whoa, I can play it. And then I figured out where to put my hands. I just kind of felt wherever it felt good.
Right.
Figured out, and I knew they played with one hand under and one hand over, because I've seen flute players before.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I figured that part out, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, I was playing 4 songs like, so messing up. I can't believe I'm all messed up today. But anyway, I figured out how to play that, right? And then once I did that, literally the same day. So I started playing around with little nursery rhymes and stuff like that. And I just put my fingers where they were supposed to go, and I was just playing it. So that was the beginning of me playing the flute. So after I kind of learned how to do it, I went looking for little musicians running around the town. So I found a flute player that is a good friend of mine. He just passed away, as a matter of fact. God bless him. He just passed away. His name was Chico. And I knew that little guy, he was little like me too. I said, that dude right there, he played flute. Maybe I can get him to show me a couple of things, right? So I wanted to learn how to play this song that I would really love by Mandrill. It was called Kohei Low, and it was featured the flute. And I asked Chico if he could show me how to play that thing. And I had the record and everything. He put the needle on the record, and he started playing piece by piece. Every little piece, he said, learn that piece right there first. And then learn the second piece, then learn the third piece. Next thing you know it. Not that same day, but I was playing around with it. But later on that night, when I got back to it, I was able to play that song. And who would have known that I would have ended up being in that particular group? Because I would have never known that my playing was going to get to the point where I could play with Mandrill, because I always looked at them as being great musicians,
Right.
So, but at that point, I didn't play flute. I only played the flute to get in the band.
Okay.
At that point, years later,
You was
I was
hustling.
playing saxophone with them.
You was hustling for real.
I was hustling. I was a big hustler. That was my thing. Coming from East Orange, New Jersey, we all were doing some hustling at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's just funny you mentioned East Orange, because we had Tawatha Agee on, and we were talking to Han. It's like, man, like what's in the water out in Jersey that there's all this talent and musicians? Like, what is it about New Jersey that New Jersey seemed to have like its own Renaissance period going on with talented musicians?
You know, you'd be surprised who came out of New Jersey. I mean, some beasts came out of New Jersey like crazy. Like even Frank Sinatra came out of Jersey. Kool and the Gang, they came out of Jersey, who are good friends of mine. Kool and the Gang, let's see, oh man, so many people. A young group, Young and Company, they had a platinum record back in that day. Young and Company, Slave. I also got a
Slave. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Slave was dope, right? With Steve Washington.
Yeah.
And Steve Arrington, they were both in the same group. And they would invite me up to the studio. As a matter of fact, that's how I got my first record deal. Me and David Townsend, God bless him as well, because, you know, he was one of the third members of Surface.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He passed away, but we wrote a song called Falling in Love. And I had it on a cassette tape, and I went up to the studio where Steve Washington and Slave was in. And the president of the record company was in there. And I told him I had a really hot song. He said, "You do? Let me hear it." So he took us into the other studio, and I played the song for him. He said, "Wow, you do have a hot song." He said, "But it's not a record. It's just a demo." I said, "Yeah." He said, "You do that as a demo. I put it out as a record." I was like, "What? You put the record out?" I was like, bugging. You know what I mean? So through Steve Washington, I got my first record deal just by being in the right place at the right time.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I loved about your flute playing? You did a rendition of The Secret Garden. Oh my God.
Oh, you heard that, huh?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's one of my favorite songs growing up. When I heard the flute play of it,
right.
This man is amazing right here, man.
You know, there's something very special about that particular recording because that recording had two of the top flute players playing with me. And I had Hubert Laws, who was probably my favorite flute player in the world, you know, and Nelson Rangel. And they're all super, super, super bad flute players.
Right, that's right.
So for me to even play with those guys, I had to trip them up a little bit. So I have this big giant flute called the bass flute. Okay. And I took that particular part and played Barry White's part because it's real low.
Yeah. Ooh.
So I played the bass flute just to hang out with those guys because I'm not as good as those guys. These guys are like the top in the world, flute players. But it gave me an opportunity to hang out with the greats for a minute, you know what I mean? So I was like, "Oh snap! I got an opportunity to play with Hubert Laws and Nelson Rangel."
Right, you in good company.
So you know, I was stoked, you know what I'm saying? So it was a great experience, that particular song.
And tell us how did you link up with Mandrill?
Being at the right place at the right time. Actually, I was sitting out in front of my house. I was out in California, and I was staying with a friend of mine, a keyboard player named Mac. He was a keyboard player in my band. Right. So the bass player of the band came riding by the house, and he said, "You ain't gonna believe this, man. I just left Mandrill." I said, "You left Mandrill? Where was they at?" He said, "They're up in the studio." Yo, please take me up there, right? Because at the time, my eyes was going really bad, so I couldn't drive or nothing like that. And I certainly didn't know how to take the bus up there because it was a studio city, right? So he said, finally, he gave in. He took me up there. He said, "I'm just going to leave you up there, whatever. I got to go." So he just dropped me off at the studio, Fidelity Sound. And I knew the guys so well because I was their biggest fan, you know what I mean? So I walked in. As soon as I walked in, I saw Coffee. I saw Carlos, and Carlos kind of almost taught me how to play the flute by listening to his records.
Right.
So they was all like, where this little guy come from? I just busted in the studio, right? I told him, I said, "Yo, I play flute." And so he said, "You play flute?" I said, "Yeah, I got my flute right here." He said, "Let me hear what you got." I said, I'll play your song. He said, "You know how to play one of my songs?" I said, "Yeah." So I busted the flute and I played Kohei Low. I better not mess it up. I'm just going to play just a piece of it. I just played it right in front of him. He was standing literally this close to me. Right? He went. So it kind of started out like that, right? And then I went into the song, and he was shocked because I played it just like him, because I studied under him. He don't know that though, right? He knows it now. And then he looked at me and says, "Play it again." But I tripped him out because I went to see him at Randall's Island in New York, right? And I had my little tape recorder, so I taped him that day. And when I taped them, they played it a little bit different. And they played a very, very high note, like a high D, which is above C.
Right.
And he ended up on that note. And when I played that thing that time, I played it with the high note on it. He looked at me like, whoa, like, who is this little dude, right? So then he said that, they're getting ready to audition sax players. I said, well, I play sax. He said, yeah. I said, yeah, I play sax. So he said, why don't you bring it around tomorrow so we can check you out on sax? But I played alto sax. I didn't play tenor because it was a tenor part that he wanted.
Right.
So I went up there, auditioned for the band, and then they called me back the next day and they said, you know what, we really, really like you, but we need a tenor sax player in the band. You know, we don't need an alto sax player. I'm like, oh shit. I says, okay. So I went into like pawn shops. Excuse me, and I found a tenor sax in a pawn shop for $60. So I went and bought this thing, took it home, and the tenor is in a different key than the alto. So I sat there because I was like one of those musicians that really learned a lot, right? So I transposed all the songs that they wanted me to play into the tenor sax. So I went back up there. I said, "Yo, look what I got!" And they looking at me like, "Oh, this dude's still here. What's up with him?" I got a tenor. So boom.
You definitely had some luck with getting some instruments.
Yeah.
You get flute from your friend. Now
Right.
you got.
So check this out though. This was kind of weird because when I see, they're like me, like right now. So some of the songs that I've written or played on or whatever, I forget them after a while. So they didn't really even remember the song. So he said, "Let's hit it." Bah, bah, bah. I said, "Whoa, hold up." I said, "You, Carlos, you take this note. Dun, dun, dun. You take the dun, dun, dun. Now take this note." They didn't even know the harmony. So I gave the harmony off the tenor that I just transposed. I was hungry as heck, y'all. So went on and hit the thing, bam. Next thing you know, they're looking at me like, yo, man, this guy, he's got to be in the group, right?
Right.
There was a little lump. They wanted to put a violin player in the group and ease me out of it. But I told them straight, I said, look, you're only kicking me out of this group. I'm in this group. Y'all don't know me. I know all your songs. I know all of them. So they went on to say, okay, meet me at the bus stop where there was the tour bus. They were going to do a gig in San Diego. I was in Los Angeles at the time. So they said, "Boom, be here." I was showing up there like probably about 2 hours early, just sitting on the side waiting for that bus to come. And that was my first gig down in San Diego with Mandrill. So that was just one of those times.
What year was that? You don't mind me asking?
That was in 1977. The first time I was on Soul Train was with Mandrill in 1978.
78. I was going to ask you about that experience.
Look, that was a nice little flex. The first time I was on Soul Train.
Oh yeah, I've been on a couple of times. Because of course, Surface. We did Soul Train.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We had #1 records at the time, though. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Mm.
That's right.
So with all the stuff that you did and accomplished, wasn't like with the flute and the group and everything else, what do you enjoy? What's the most about it? About your music?
Well, after all these instruments and stuff I've been playing, I always stick to the flute.
Okay.
So I had to come back to the flute and just really make it my life story because that's what I do the best. You know what I mean? The keyboards and the sax and the percussion, all that stuff is okay, but the flute is where my heart is. And this is the one that, God gave me this thing, you know what I mean? Because the first time I had it in my hands, I knew how to play it. Now I can't answer that question. How did you learn how to play? It's because he gave it to me. He literally said, shoo, boom, here, yours. So even right now, my whole purpose actually in life is to not only edify the people because, I'm also, an Israelite. And this is what we do. We teach. So, but I also, I'm using this to really help people feel better about their life because we have so much trouble here in the world.
Right.
And, when I play this flute and play certain melodies and stuff for them, it makes people feel a certain way.
Because the flute is light. It's real light, man. You
it's so light and beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And then even when we do shows, because of Shower Me With Your Love, which was written by Bernard Jackson, songs like that and Closer Than Friends and Happy, everybody's like, yo, man, I grew up on those songs. This is my child right here. I know
Right.
she's older now, but I made this girl right over here by you, right? They're telling me stories like that. So, God blessed me not only with a beautiful instrument, but even a beautiful group that's able to take some old songs from like damn near 30 years ago and still playing them now. Still, people still loving them. So it's a beautiful life to be able to do that kind of thing, what I mean? So
Yeah.
I tell
So
you,
what?
I
I'm
got a
happy.
story. I got a story about closer than friends when I was a teenager. That
Mhm.
song.
Oh, no.
Let me tell you something. If I can digress just for a second, I might have been about
Digress,
16.
go on, do it.
It might have been about 16. I met this young lady, sweet young lady or whatever, and I happened to be at her house way too long. So, y'all, I'm telling you, Closer Than Friends was on. It might have been about 1, 2:30 in the morning. And we're laying in her room, we're chilling out, we end up falling asleep. I look at the time, I'm like, damn, my mom's is gonna kill me. Less than 2 seconds later, all I heard was, Robert. That's my mother screaming for me out this young girl's window. And I'm like, oh, son. And that song, Closer Than Friends, was playing.
Oh God.
I'll never forget that in my childhood.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you, that's actually my favorite Surface songs.
Oh,
That's my favorite.
Wow.
I love that song. So
It's a beautiful
beautiful.
song, man.
Yeah, it's to me, I think it's remarkable how you were able to actually integrate the flute into like some of the up tempo R&B type stuff, because you don't think flute when you think R&B, but like I said, those flute riffs is like, man, it's
Beautiful.
You don't, and you're right, and that was my problem when I started out playing. I love playing the flute, but as you know, I played sax. But even with mandrill, I didn't get the gig with mandrill on the flute. I just let them know that I'm a musician.
Mhm.
But you had to play something. You know, I'm back in the days with the horn sections.
Mm.
So the horn sections was happening, so I had to get a sax. It was just the only progression. If I'm going to stay in this world of music, I
Right.
got to use what they're using, and they're using
Yeah.
Was that the only instrument you played with mandrill?
pretty much that and bongos, yes, because
Mm.
everybody had to play percussion.
okay.
But I always hit on bongos and congas and stuff like that coming up. So I knew I had the rhythm because I was from New Jersey, and there was a lot of Latin bands up in New Jersey and stuff. So
Mm.
the rhythm kind of just moved into me, But basically, it was just the tenor sax, really. And I sang backgrounds for them, but it was just group backgrounds singing and stuff like that. It wasn't no lead singing like Bernard. No, it wasn't nothing like
Right.
that. Just background
Yeah.
singing.
So in addition to playing these instruments, you also are a writer. What led to you becoming a writer, and what does your writing process look like?
Well, out of nowhere, like about 2 weeks ago, because I haven't been writing a lot lately, and since I've been studying the Bible, I wrote an album called "Holy Sounds of Surface,"
Mm.
and the name of the album was called "Download from Heaven." And this is my first venture into what you guys might call gospel, but it's not gospel at all. It's really just a spiritual music.
Right.
Mm.
That's the lyrics literally are coming off of some of the stories in the Bible.
Okay.
So I hadn't wrote a whole album since then. Well, I mean, I did a flute record that's up on deck now, and I'm getting ready to put it out pretty soon. But the last 2 weeks, me and a friend of mine named Martin Blockson, I just called him up one day about 2 weeks ago, and I said, George Benson's looking for some songs. George Benson's a good friend of mine, so
Wow.
he said, I'm getting ready to do another album. He said, why don't you write me a song? So that night I called him up. I said, we got to do something for George, right? I woke up the next day. He had a whole track ready, right?
Wow.
And that track was ready. I sat down. I'm like, man, we got to write this thing. So, started writing the lyrics for it and the melodies and stuff like that, right? And he's like a lead singer himself. So he was able to take the ideas that I had and kind of augment them up, fix them all up, like that kind of stuff. And next thing you know, we had a song for George.
Mm.
And we played it for George. He said, I love it. I want it on my record. So that one, and then we wrote another one for George, and he loves that one. So we got 2 songs on George Benson's record right now.
Man.
And so you asked what was the process like? In this particular sense, because I wasn't doing any music, because sometimes I do the tracks too. But
Mm-hmm.
being that Martin is so prolific with the music, he had this music. The whole track was done. All I had to do was sit down and write the lyrics to it, right? And George had me going back and forth because he has a certain idea what lyrics he wants too. So once I figured that out, we sat down and did it. So the process was really he had the music, and I put the music in my computer, and I sat down and sang the song, and then he took the song from me after I sang it. Then he sang it and fixed what little parts he heard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the way we've been working in the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
Now, when we were writing with Surface, in the beginning of Surface, the first song was with Karen Copeland. She was the lead vocalist for Surface before Bernard.
Right.
We wrote a song called Falling in Love, and it did it charted here and everything, but it was bigger overseas than here. But we would sit down, and I would play the bass synthesizer and do the drum programming, and then Dave would play the guitar and the keyboards, right? So we put the song together, and I wrote the first verse. He wrote the second verse. He wrote the chorus, and I wrote the bridge. So we came up with a song that way. But when the three of us got together, it would be like, me and Dave would pretty much do the basic tracks, which is like the bass, the drums, the guitar, the piano. And then Bernard would come in with his microphone, and he'd write the words and stuff to it, right? And we became so prolific that they actually gave us a songwriter's deal at EMI back then.
That's right. I would write for everybody.
Yeah, we ended up being writers for everybody else before we were writers for ourselves.
Yeah.
We didn't have a record deal yet. We had a writer's deal. It's called a publishing deal. So we ended up writing songs for Sister Sledge, Gwen Guthrie, Isaac Hayes, Jermaine Jackson.
New Edition.
New Edition. That was our first big one, actually. Yeah. Let's Be Friends.
Let's Be Friends. Yes, sir.
And when we saw him on Soul Train doing that song, we lost our freaking minds. That's when Bobby Brown he stepped off the crowd and he started doing this little dance. Oh, man, it was crazy. I lost my mind. So
now, I did some research. Did you write something for Cool G Rap?
Well, actually, it was Happy. It was Happy. We did the track for Cool G Rap. And Nas. Don't leave Nas out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Fast Life and Fast Cars was, I think, the name of it.
Yeah, Fast Life.
What we didn't know was going to happen was that the rappers and other singers was going to be covering our songs after we did them. Mm-hmm. And Happy was one of the big covers that people would do. Let me see. R. Kelly did it.
R. Kelly did it.
To Make Me Happy.
That's right.
69 Boys. So many people. What's the guy's name? The TV show. Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon did it with Fat Joe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they did the video and everything. Oh, just recently, Little Duval and Bootsy, they just did it. Taylor did the track. I mean, that song keeps getting.
So hold on a second. Huh? Yeah, with y'all being involved and having having your publishing and everything, do you still retain the rights to the song? I hope.
Oh yeah, we do.
Oh,
when somebody else does it and they put raps in it, then especially a big artist like R. Kelly. Come on,
right.
I was like, yo, whatever he wants, give it to him. I was expecting him to take about 50% of the song, and I was down with it. Yeah. But he ended up taking 25%. So he was cool.
Wow.
He was cool. So he took 25% of the song, and generally we just negotiate what we're going to give people when they do our songs.
That's
and
right.
When it worked, but opposite for me, I did a song on Posh Spice with Damon Dash, right? So we did "Don't Disturb This Groove." Oh. Now we're writing this song, but Jesse did the lyrics that time, and I did the music track, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we got down to David Franks, is that his name, David Franks? I think it's David Franks. He took almost like 85% of the song.
Oh wow!
Wait, so he did "Don't Disturb the Groove" over from the system?
That's from the system, yeah.
Yeah.
We did the track, the music.
Oh, okay.
And then we changed all the music. But Jesse changed all the lyrics. She changed all the lyrics on the song. And it was called This Groove.
Oh, okay.
But we had that one section in there that was Don't Disturb This Groove. It was that little chorus section, even though we didn't use not one of the lyrics that was in there.
Yeah.
We changed the whole thing around.
Yeah.
But they took 85% of the song. So it depends on who you're dealing with, how much of the song, how important the song is to each person.
Mhm.
You know.
Have you ever had somebody come to you and ask for clearance and you heard the record?
Oh,
Do you ask to hear the record first and be like, nah, I'm not clearing that?
Well, you know what? Certain times we probably would not clear it because when I look at something like Coogee Rap and Nas, the way they did the song, it's not what I'm really into. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
Right.
being that when you have an old school group, that's their record stuff is kind of pretty much faded now. You know what I mean? But we keep going through these other groups, so we're light on people. Even though we wouldn't write lyrics like that.
Mhm.
Uh, we wouldn't do it, but we still give them the rights to the song, and they just go.
Yeah.
And it's just really a financial thing because
I'm
it,
just happy
'cause it
to
keeps
hear.
us alive. It keeps us alive.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to hear that you have your own rights and you own those songs because so many.
Well, we don't have our own rights, so that now you're into a different subject. Now, when we did our first publishing deal, we had a split deal with EMI.
Okay,
But did we have all the rights? No,
Okay.
okay,
we still had to split it with them.
Right.
So even today, we still split the rights with another company.
okay.
But that was the price we did to get on. You know what I mean? So right
Yeah.
now anything that I write now, belongs to me. So it's
That's
done.
right. It's a whole new game now. You got to
It's a
hold
whole
your IP.
it's a whole new thing.
So do you chalk something like that up to just the cost of doing business, or just
We
how
we were
everything
the
gets started?
pioneers of that thing. We were the first actually first black writers on EMI. This was back in
Mm.
1985.
Believe it.
Gotta remember. So in the beginning, we are going to take some hits. Some
Yeah,
people are going to just take more bigger hits than others.
Mm.
So it was a price to pay, but we didn't even know what publishing was in the beginning. We did Falling in Love. I signed all my publishing rights away and didn't even know it.
Oh.
So the first thing you got to
Why
remember
is that
is
such
it's
a
a
common?
business.
That's such a common story.
Yeah, but we didn't know. We were kids.
Right. That's
And
right.
when I say kids, don't get me wrong. I was still about 30 years old when I started doing writing for other people, writing for us.
Mhm.
So I was actually kind of old in the game, because even when Falling in Love came out, I had to be at least 30 years old, you
Mm.
know. So
Yeah.
Bernard was young when we started. He was still in his 20s.
Mm.
But by the time Bernard came around, I think I was like 32 years old when I did Happy.
Mm.
So that's kind of old in the business, you know what I mean? They ain't like, but Bernard was the star anyway. He was the one, to look at.
His
We were
vocal.
just
Yeah.
the producers and the musicians.
Wow.
Me and Dave, we sang background on a couple of songs like "You Are My Everything," stuff like that. But it was very few. Bernard did so well at what he did. We left him alone. You know,
Yeah.
we'll just produce and write these, just music stuff. You know what I mean?
So when did you realize that you had something with Surface that like, wow, we really gonna be something?
Actually, you know who it was? It was actually my nephew who told me. And he was into rap, but he was real young. He was probably about 12 or 13 years old. And we lived in a house where I had one side of the house, and the second side of the house, it was a duplex. David Bernard was staying over there. So we had built the studio over there because it used to be over at my house, but then we moved it over there. And so my nephew ran over to me, yo, Uncle Pick, man, you should hear this thing Dave working on. I'm like, yo, where? He said, yeah, come on. And me and Bernard was over on my side. So we ran next door. And when we got up there upstairs in the studio, Dave was playing the keyboards, right? Had the drum machine going, and he was singing, "Only You Can Make Me Happy." Just that much.
Ooh.
We was like, "Oh shit!" We all we knew is we liked it.
Yeah.
So then I jumped on the bass, right? And Bernard went and grabbed his pen and started writing the rest of the lyrics. And then, in no time, like 15 minutes, we had the whole song written,
So
right?
hold on a second. Yo, hold on a second. You mean to tell us that you wrote Happy in 15 minutes?
15 minutes. But wait a minute, because we came in on Dave. So Dave had the chords and the chorus already there. So we jumped on him. So, I have to credit that. So I don't know where that came from. But
Mm.
anytime Dave would write a hook, which is the chorus, he always had something nice. It was always dope, right?
Right.
And so all we really did was just finish it off, So yeah, it happened real quick. But we already had the chorus already, you know what I mean? So once you have that, the story comes quick.
It's just listen to you say that. It just makes me think about like, how people get into their creative space. Cause you think about, I'm sure as a writer, you've probably been up against deadlines where people are like, we need these records from you, and how difficult it must be to get creative when you faced with a deadline. But any other time, like you creative juices could come to you when you're in the shower, when you're in the car, whatever it is,
But on the deadline stuff, we've had deadlines before. And, it's just really a blessing from God. It just got to be straight up, because deadlines almost don't mean anything when you just kind of got I would say a formula how to do it. You know what I mean? So people liked us to write for them because they like what we did for us, and they would say, "Can you give me one of them? Can you give me one of them? Can you give me one of them?" So a lot of times we was really getting gigs just because they liked what we were doing and they wanted a piece of that. So
yeah.
So because it kind of came from us, it was kind of almost like second nature. It was kind of easy to do.
Nice. What was the idea of naming the group Surface?
I don't know how it just kind of came out, right? We had a deal and we didn't have a name for the group. And it was just me and Karen Copeland at the time, So I'm sitting up here trying to figure out some names of the group. And one of my co-writers from long time, we've been together for a long time, Josh Thompson, who also wrote a lot for Joe. He was kicking out some names with me, and I think he said something about wind, airways. That's what it was. He said airways, and automatically I just said surface, and he goes, airwaves and surface. I said, no, I like surface. So it was just one of them creative things that just came out.
Right.
And later on, after it came out, then all of a sudden it started to have a little bit more meaning, but it had no meaning in the beginning. It was just a cool name.
Let me tell you something, Uncle Pick. You walking with the Lord, because the Lord dropped the flute in your hand, phone, surface. Listen, man. You walking with the Lord, bro.
It's just no question. And that's why I love to do music for him. And, if I write a song, even the song we did on George, we still like it to be clean.
Right.
I'm out of that. Even though, Surface never really did nothing too crazy anyway, like our peers. They were straight out, let me lick you up and down, But we was, shower me with your love, So we were those guys. So I still kept that integrity of the lyrics these days, So, that's just the way it is right now, I got two kids over here, I have a new marriage right now for 4 years, So.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. And the two boys are like 13 and 14.
Okay.
And I had two boys on my own, which was Tal and Miles. But unfortunately, last year, because I guess of the pressures of this world for these young kids out here.
Yes, sir.
And he was 27 when he passed away, but he took his own life.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Wow.
Yeah, when he was 27 years old last year. Wow. So yeah, that was a heavy hit. But when you if you really look inside of what's going on in the world today with these young folks, a lot of them really feel like, I don't know how old you guys are, but a lot of young people coming out of high school into college and stuff, they feel like a YOLO. You only live once. They feel like, well, we live with 25 anyway. I'm like, I don't know where this mentality came from.
Let me ask you, since you speak of Israelite, do you think it's a lack of spirituality at this time?
No question. Because look, we yell and scream about cops killing us, but guess who kills us the most?
We do.
And there was a billboard down south somewhere. I live in the Atlanta area now, but there was a billboard somewhere that said, the worst place for a black child is in a black woman's belly. Wow. Why? Because she's aborting them. Right. There's millions of aborted kids that didn't even get a chance to come out here and show what they got. So it's more than just us killing each other. It's the women killing us. Why is the women killing us? Because they're having sex before before they really know what's going on with life.
Right.
And then you end up with a whole lot of baby mama drama, you know, and all of these things are it's a constant cycle going
Right.
around. So one of the things that we try to do is we try to bring the integrity back into the black people's minds and the Mexicans and the so-called Native American Indians, right? Because we didn't really have a chance like a lot of other people had. So what do? You know, we pimp, we hustle, we just stay in the streets, we get high, we get drugs, we get guns, and we're just living a terrible life. We go from this girl to this girl to this girl to this girl, and I'm a part of that too. I would never do that now
Right.
because I've been taught already, that there's a way that you live.
That's right.
But the way that you live is a certain way that was really put down on the Bible because the Bible tells you shouldn't be doing certain things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But what do? Our lust kills us, So, and it causes us to have no fathers in the houses now.
Right.
Women being the head of the families now. And what happens when women are the head of families a lot of time, not all the time. A lot of times, the young boys get a little feminine.
Yeah,
Mm.
there's a stat out there about single women raising boys and how those numbers.
Well, yeah, they get girly tendencies, And look, come on, whatever you say, hey, which you don't like gay people, but look, God don't like gay people. So you really, a man is supposed to be with a woman. I know I might get some flack for that, but that's just the way it is, guys. And if we just follow his rules, the way he put us here to do,
Be all right.
we wouldn't have these problems out here.
Mm.
One law: love your brother like you love yourself. Just one.
That's it.
If we was to do that, we wouldn't be giving drugs to our brothers out in the streets and sisters. We wouldn't be, causing them to be prostitutes and hoes. We wouldn't be stealing from them. We
Hey,
wouldn't
that's
be
some integrity, man. That's
Just
some
one.
integrity.
Just
Right.
one. So
You're right about that.
Yeah.
here we go.
How do you think being vision impaired has helped or hindered your artistry?
Well, we're living in a world of
AI.
so much technology now. So maybe if I'd have came up with Sam Cooke and those guys where they didn't have so much technology, because I run the studio by myself. Of course I got help, but with the technology it makes it easy. But before, it was a little difficult, but my eyes were slowly going down along the way, because I went to engineering school and everything. So
Okay.
once you lose your eyes, it is kind of hard, but at the same time, it helps your ears.
Yes,
It
sir.
helps your creativity in some other different kind of way. But at the same time, I had to take that thing and say, you know what, this is the way God wants me to be. So why you fight it? You can't change it. You can't. There's
Roll
no
with the punches.
technology that's gonna make me see.
Yeah, roll with the punches, man.
Yeah. So I knew I had that kind of personality where I could always kind of be positive about myself, and I was never one of those guys that's going to sit in the corner somewhere and just boo hoo, boo hoo. That's not me.
Right, right.
So,
Mm.
and for me to make it in this business, this treacherous, no good business, man, I had to be strong inside of myself because this business is not friendly to nice guys.
No one.
Sorry, nope, nope.
Mm.
So
So
we get ripped off and everything.
so has the vulnerability that comes with being vision impaired helped you personally and professionally also? Because I would imagine it requires extreme levels of trust in people.
It really does. And I travel the world, so a lot of people go, "Do you travel with somebody?" Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I'm the kind of guy that would go to a place like Japan and still make it in there by myself by getting around, by talking to people who speak English, blah blah blah. I could go there. They could take me and bring me somewhere else where I ain't supposed to be, but it doesn't happen very often.
Hmm.
Have I been in situations where it was kind of rough for me to figure out? Yeah, but
Mm.
I always figure it out. So I always, once again, my life is really strange like that. I always felt like there was somebody walking with me, even when I was crazy, even when I was not even no good. When I was the one that had all these girls, when I was the one that was smoking weed, when I was the one that was doing all this crazy stuff. But somebody still was with me
Hmm.
until I finally woke up. I said, man, he really gonna be with me now. So all I had to do was just wake up. So I just woke up one day and then I said, wow, life is different now.
You know, I had a brother who passed away not too long ago, and he was blind.
Mhm.
He said, "Man, now that I'm blind, I think the best sight is insight."
Yeah.
And the way he lived his life and how he was moving about, like he had everything under control. I swear, I talked to my brother, I would not think he was blind. He's like, "Yo,
Right.
Rob, I'm going curtain shopping. You want to come?" I'm like, "Why are you playing with me, bro?" He's like,
Well,
"Nah,
you know,
I'm going with my wife.
you gotta have trust. You have to
Yeah.
have trust. Yeah. To a certain degree now. You know, you have to, we call it, you have to prove that person. If you want a friend, you got to prove them first, right? You know, you don't want anybody just walking you around because people, like I keep saying, people are terrible out here.
Yeah, this world is crazy.
You think everybody's supposed to be kind to a blind dude? No.
Oh, they take advantage.
No, you gotta prove them. Yeah. So
At what age did you lose your sight?
I think it was like maybe more like 1997 when my sight was getting to the point where you need a cane to walk with.
Okay.
So I started going to the Commission for the Blind. They were teaching me how to get around and things like that, even though I could still see. But my sight was going so bad, and then it gradually became right before it got dark at the dusk. That's when I can actually see the best. Something about the lights and all that kind of stuff was kind of bothering me a little bit, right? So I don't even remember how old I was around in the 97, but I know in 97, that's kind of stamped in my head. That's when I needed to have that cane to walk around, and I needed to be trained. So even though I was training for the future, it was still something that had to be done because I knew that the doctor said, one day you're just going to be blind too. That's just the nature of the disease. So I had to just get that mentality going and just like, roll with the higher powers out here, So that's where it is, right?
And what was it like coming to terms with that?
It was no choice. I couldn't do anything to change. Although I looked around for all kinds of technology and all kinds of new inventions and all kinds of stuff. And that's why I had things that could read books for me. That phone right there, it reads. I study by the phone.
Right.
I have books. I belong to a book club. I read all the time. I read every day. Of course, I read the Bible every day, but I read other books every day. I've had machines that scans books, and I've had albums and stuff with books on albums in the early days and tape, the early days. But right now, we rolling right now.
That's great.
So everything that I roll with has speech. My computer's back here. They talk to me. So people like, how do you mix records now? I'm like, yo, man, the computer's talking.
Yeah.
They talking, baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I miss seeing. Don't get me wrong, I do. And I've never seen my wife. Everybody tells me how beautiful she is, though. But I miss seeing, and I wish I could see my kids and my wife. But I know she hot. I can tell you that.
And that's all that matters, right?
You know what I mean? Once again, that's that kind of blessing that's put on me. You know what I mean? So I got to just be chill. You know what I mean? Because things are just lovely. Even though I can't get behind the car and drive myself. I wish I could. But don't fret. Guess what? These cars out here right now, they're coming real close to be able to drive themselves. So, and when that really happens, you're gonna see me up in that bad boy. Yo, what's up? Yeah, rolling down the highway, cruising, baby.
Yeah.
It's going down. It's going down. If I live long enough, it's going down.
Let's get back to the music real quick. Tell me about the transition of your lead singer Karen Copeland to Bernard Jackson. How was that transition?
Well, Karen was a great singer, and she was a woman. So first of all, she was a woman. Actually, she was a very young woman. She was only 30 years old when she passed away.
Yes.
But her voice was just magically sweet. And when Bernard got into the group, kind of like through some systems, this, that, and the other, but he kind of sounded like a girl anyway. His voice was very high pitched. People used to say, "Yo, who's that girl you got singing with you?" I'm like, "That ain't no girl. That's Bernard." Ain't nothing girly about him.
Right. Ain't nothing.
His voice might be high pitched, but no, that's all man right there, you know. So that transition, it was just a different personality, and I had to just get used to being with guys instead of a girl. You know.
Right.
Plus, my vision when I was with Karen, I had a different vision of the group at the time, and she just didn't want to go with it. So we was kind of falling on down anyway because we were both real short, right? And we looked real cute together, right? And she got this beautiful voice, and I'm back there playing the flute on stage with her and all this kind of stuff. I was like, we should be like Peaches and her. Even though we didn't go together. I said, we should act like we are lovers, right? And she was like, I don't really know love with you.
She's blowing you off, right?
It's just an act. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't want nobody to think I'm going with you.
Oh wow.
But that's her attitude towards me. But I couldn't convince her. So we kind of went on, but then, things happened where we couldn't be partners in singing anymore. So she had to go, and I couldn't let nothing stop me, you know what I mean? And she was trying to stop me, you know what I mean? So I feel bad for it. And then when she died, I really felt bad. I'm like, damn. And then when I went to France, oh man, they were like, man, we're so sad about Karen. Her voice was the most beautiful voice. I listen to her every day. So these are people overseas.
Right.
And that's when I really found out how dope Karen was, because she had people just mesmerized over her voice.
Transcended, man.
Oh man.
Prior to her passing, did y'all have an opportunity to reconcile whatever the difference?
We actually did. Great. Because her girlfriend kept calling me up and saying, not girlfriend, but her girlfriend would call me up and she said, because she was there when we had our big, disagreement. Everybody was there. And so she said, well, why don't you just make up back with Karen? I know she's not going to be in your group no more because you got Bernard, but you really should. Y'all really had something going on back in the day. And I eventually just took up. I said, you know what? I'm going to be the man about this. I'm going to just call up and say, you know what, Karen? All this way, man, and I just want to. I felt she should apologize to me. I was the one that was going all out for the group, and she was just the singer to me.
Right.
I didn't know how big she was to everybody else, but to me, she was just a singer, right? And so I finally came back. I said, I'm gonna just be a man. I said, you know what, Karen? I said, we ain't spoke to each other for a whole year, and that just don't make sense. And I know what went down and everything. I'm just going to put my pride aside and just say, you know what? We just need to be friends again. And then she apologized. Then she said, yeah, I apologize for that, what I did.
She might have been thinking about it like, I need to.
I think she was, because her girlfriend named Gail, she kept harping on me like, look, man, I know whatever. Just drop your pride. And just
That's it. Yeah.
And I did. But guess what? When I did, it was probably about 6 months before she died.
Wow. So you got that opportunity. That's great.
And I'm only throwing out that number, but I know it was very, very close. And so me and my cousin Scooty, we went to the hospital because they told me she was in the hospital, right? So we went up to the hospital. We were standing outside the hospital. So maybe we should call. So I called there, and her mother answered the phone. And she was like, Pick, she's not really feeling that good tonight. She said, why don't y'all come back tomorrow or something like that? Maybe she'll feel a little bit better. She died that night.
Oh, man.
She died that night. Wow. And me and Scooty was looking at each other like, whoa. He called me up. He said, Karen died. I'm like, man, I heard. But everybody in the neighborhood heard. So, it was over. It was over. Who would have thought she would have died at 30 years old? Come on, nobody dies at 30. Not in my brain. Not in my life. Come on, that's no.
So you guys wrote Gwen Guthrie's Rent, right? Ain't nothing going on with the Rent.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah, with her.
Nice. I did the music. How did that come about? And that's a huge record. I know some of our viewers are younger than others, but that back in the days, that was like a for sure party starter. That
was a party starter, and I'll tell you 2 parts of that thing. I met Gwen Guthrie in the studio in New Jersey. Once again, like I knew, I saw her sitting over in the studio. I went right over to her, sat right next to her. I said, "Hey, Gwen." She said, "Hey, honey." And she had that little, Southern Comfort kind of, warm up personality, right? And I said, I write songs. She said, you do? She said, let me hear one of your songs. So I sang one of my songs. that I wrote with Josh. And she said, why don't you send me a tape of that? I might want to cut that. So we cut that one. That wasn't the rent. But anyway, we became friends at that point. And so she kept saying that she wants to write this song called Ain't Nothing Going On But the Rent. She would always be like, Joe, when are we going to do this song? She said, I got the hook. And I said, so we went into the studio and I brought my bass synthesizer. And I'm going to tell you the secret. I went up to one of the clubs up in New York one night and I heard the floor was totally cleared out. And we were just sitting up there listening to music. White Lines came on.
Wow.
Oh.
I'm like, what? And everybody was kind of like droning to the floor, like there was in a trance. And I was like, what's making these people do that? And I didn't know, but I said, I'm going to take this bass line and I'm going to do it my way. So we got to the studio. I said, yo, check this out, Gwen. So I started do 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 do. Do 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 do. Right?
That's a gem right there. That's a gem right there.
There was that record because she had the words. So she didn't have all of them, but she was kind of writing them. We were just doing it along the way, kind of piecing it all together.
Yeah.
And every time we would come to a little spot, it would be like, oh, check this spot out. It was really cool, right? So that's kind of how that came out. And I did not know that was a hit record.
Oh wow!
I was too young. I didn't know nothing about stuff. I just did stuff for the love of it. I just love music.
That was a woman's anthem right there.
Yeah. I like Gwen Guthrie though. Like Padlock is still one of my favorite joints.
Padlock is dope.
Yeah.
Padlock is fire. That thing's straight fire, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Peanut Butter was nice too.
Yeah. I don't think she gets her flowers. I think she's.
You know why? Because unfortunately, and even one of the guys at the record company was telling me, because he had me doing stuff for her too. And he was like, you know what? Gwen's going through it because she gained so much weight, right? And it was during that time when, women in the business, they was picking them just for their looks.
Right. Slender.
I'm going to give that girl a hit because she could if you could hold the note, I'll give it to you because you fine. And she had to go through that kind of thing. So people didn't look at her. And even though her voice was ridiculous, it was just crazy.
She has what? She has Seventh Heaven too, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she had.
It was crazy.
Yeah. Man.
But because of her look, and she's pretty. Don't get me wrong, but she was very, very big, and it was bothering her, and she was trying to lose it, and eventually she did end up losing a lot of weight. She did, but at that time, her time was almost over because she had got cancer, and then she passed away.
Yeah.
So that Death Angel's out here. He ain't taking no prisoners.
Yeah, she's very talented.
Yeah, she's super talented. She could play the piano, sing like an angel. Man, that girl was so dope. And she could write too. She wrote those words.
Oh, man.
I ain't touch a word. Just did the music. And as you see, I borrowed the music from Grandmaster Flash.
I was there. What was he sampling back then? Hold on, you sampled?
No, it wasn't no sample.
Wasn't no sample. We
That was
just
from ear.
It seems like to me you had the pleasure of working with a lot of people that you became really friendly with, and became friends and built relationships. Was everybody that easy to work with?
Some people were scary for me. When I worked with Aretha Franklin, I was literally scared because I literally grew up with her as a kid, not even being a musician. She's been on my radio since I was a kid. You know what I mean? So when Clive Davis told me, he said, you know what? He says, I'll let you produce Aretha Franklin if you come up with a song. So that was the entryway to Aretha Franklin, but it wasn't, I said, what can I do with her? You know what I mean? So I got the song, me and a bunch of cats, we all got together, got the song popping. But what can I say to Aretha Franklin? I go in the studio with her, and she's so prepared. She's so dope. It's just like she couldn't do no wrong. As a matter of fact, I thought she was attitude on one little spot, and I was scared to say something. I said, I think this one was a little attitude. She said, let me hear it. She rolled that tape back. She says, it's all right. Let's go. Now I'm like a little kid. You know what I mean? Wow. So that was that, but we got an opportunity. That was that was our Grammy nominating album, that thing right there.
Wow.
So, she was up for a Grammy for the best R&B album.
Mm.
And I had the title track of the album. So it was like
Look at
crazy. Yeah.
Look at that.
So,
Do you think the advancement of technology has enhanced or hindered instrumentation?
I think it enhanced, but everybody's got their opinion, because it's funny how when we used to do tracks in the beginning days of Surface, we never used sequencers in the beginning.
Hmm.
But boy, by the second album come around, I needed sequencers because everything had to be kind of locked in place. You closer to friends and all that stuff, they had to be locked. You know what I mean? What I mean by locked, that bass and that drums, they had to be totally tight, no
Right.
mistakes in that thing. And that's what the sequencers kind of did for me. You know what I mean? So it really helped out a lot.
Mm.
But other people would be like, "Nah, man, I'm into playing. I'm playing these instruments. They ain't sampling me. No, I'm doing it. Like, whatever." So,
Just as you
Yeah.
explained it with Closer Than Friends and the sequence, you think that's the reason why the song is so timeless?
no, closer to friends. All I really did, I think we sequenced Dave's part, the keyboard part,
Okay.
and we did not sequence the strings and all that kind of stuff. We did that with Sal Bedford. He was like a genius with arrangements. But the song was written in the right key for Bernard, the right words. Everything was just so right about it. The
Yeah.
sound. It's something about that song that even it was perfect for Bernard's voice. Some things you could sing could be a little out of your key, you still sound good. Sometimes it could be a little low for your key, you still sound good. But that song couldn't do no wrong.
Melodically, sonically, it sounded right.
Yeah, everything, the melodies, the sound itself. We started to come into a sound around that second album anyway. We started to develop what they call the surface sound. So, it's nice to be in that position.
What album was I missed on?
That was on Second Wave.
Second Wave, right?
Yeah,
That was our first single on the Second Wave album.
yeah.
And without a video, we got
Awesome.
number 3 on that song.
You had like 5 singles on that album, man.
Yeah.
They were all hits.
Closer Than Friends, You're My Everything. Can I
Yeah.
spend some time? Shower me with your love. It's like,
It was
Jesus
killer.
Christ.
It was killer. It was a platinum album off the bat.
That was a platinum album. That's
Yeah.
it.
Mm.
It was.
With a gold single. Shower Me With Your Love was a gold single.
How about
Yeah.
that?
Now, is it true that the first time you guys had originally wrote that song even before you recorded your first album, but it didn't appear into the third album on the third album? And if
No,
so,
that
why?
was actually a third album song.
Okay.
Okay.
And Bernard and Brian Simpson, who did the music for that thing, and Bernard wrote it. So that's actually our biggest song ever. It was also a gold single as well. No, what we did was when Bernard brought us Shower Me With Your Love, he wrote that song for Tony Orlando and Dawn. I don't know if y'all remember them.
Tony Orlando. I do remember that. Yes, sir.
So Bernard played me that song, and I'm looking at him like, you
That's
can't give
hard.
that to them. We got to do that song. And Dave heard it, said the same thing. So that's how that song actually ended up on the album, Second Wave.
Yeah. That's like probably was like a big wedding song, I could imagine too.
It's a big wedding song, and it's just one of them songs. I just never heard anything like it to me, when you brought that, I'm like, whoa, how you write that? I'm like, and as simple as it is, it's a very simple song. There's nothing complicated about it, but it just sounds so beautiful. We knew for a fact that was a smash. We knew.
About
Yeah.
that.
And I'm so glad they didn't put that out first, because that was our third single on the Second Wave album. They let it simmer. I Miss went to number 3. Closer Than Friends went to number 1. Bam! Shower Me With Your Love. Took it to the moon. Took it to the moon.
Wow. So talk to us a little bit about Resurface.
Well, Resurface. Actually, I was actually had a little jazz band for a little while because we wasn't doing anything. And then Dave had died, and we were left very empty, in spirit.
Right.
Because Dave was like one of my best friends, you know what I mean? And not only did we do music together, we had our times for real. And when he left, it was kind of left us alone for a little while. We didn't do any shows. We wasn't doing too much of nothing, So I just started, just because I still wanted to stay in the music, I started playing the flute in jazz bands and stuff like that. And but every time I would play in a group, in my own group, right? Everybody like, yo, play Shout Me What You Love, play Happy. What's up with you? I don't care if it's jazz or not. Play that song. So I had ran into John Fever in a club in Newark, the Key Club. Was it the Key Club? I think it was in Newark, New Jersey. And he was doing a show for the radio station WBLS, and it was like who's going to do the best singing wise was going to win $500, right? I just happened to be in there that night, and I was listening to this dude sing "Whip Appeal" by Babyface. I was like, damn, this dude's killing it. I said, if he could do Babyface, he could sure do Surface. So I had my man go snatch him up after he sang, right?
Nice.
And I'm at the table. I said, yo, man, I said, I love your sound. It's just beautiful. Matter of fact, you sound so much like Bernard. I said, how would you like to, come into my group and sing some of our Surface songs with us? He said, yo, I'm down. I'm with it. So we started out slow, and I would just bring him in on a couple of songs, whatever that case. And then I got a call to go out to France with Surface, right? So when I got that call, I said, yo, man, I said, can you handle it? Can you handle it like literally being Bernard? And he was like, I felt that he was unsure. But I was really hard on him in the beginning because, I had to take him out of his element and bring him into my element here.
Yeah.
But I trained him, and he got better and better. And all the way up to a week before we had left for France, I still wasn't sure. I'm like, I would literally got mad at him. I'm like, yo, you gonna learn these songs, man, or what? We get ready to go on the stage, you know what I mean? Come on, man. And I didn't feel like he learned all the songs properly. So I was a little nervous. We got on that plane, got out there, man. He ended up doing pretty damn good.
That's
Wow.
He didn't murder it, but it was good. He got the songs. Because the people out there, they know my songs. They know them. So, and he did them so good. He did them just like, like, sorry, Bernard, but he kind of didn't like you. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how Resurface started. And I told Bernard that I wanted to do a project, and I wanted to call it Resurface. And I said, is that going to bother you? He said, no, it's cool, right? I mean, I had made up the name anyway, so I didn't think it would be a problem, Resurface. But then it started burning up on the road. Everybody started like digging it. Oh, I like that Resurface thing. And then we were singing the songs that everybody that got reminded of how wonderful it was in that day, back in the day, hearing those songs. It's like my man talking about Closer Than Friends. That people was like, yo, man, that time period was awesome. My man is doing it too. And some people was coming up to him like, yo, man, you sound the same as you did 20 years ago. Like,
Yeah, how about that?
That ain't him. Come on, y'all. But it's good to have somebody that sounds so much like him that we can just pick up the torch and still do these old songs, still be able to represent them. So that's really what it was. And I always thought that he was a blessing. I always thought that. So I don't treat him bad or nothing like that. I try to treat him, the way he should be treated with his talent, you see.
Right.
Yeah, that's dope.
That's right. Wow, man, this has been a great conversation, Mr. Pitt. I'll tell you this. But I have one more question. And this is totally off topic. You mentioned earlier that you're an Israelite, so I read the Bible too.
Right.
There's one verse that sticks to me a lot when I'm by myself and I'm thinking of things, and it's in Jeremiah chapter 18, verse 3, and it reads, then I went down to the potter's house, and there he was, making something at the wheel. Give me your understanding of that verse.
Well, do you have the Bible in front of you?
I just have a clipping of it. I don't have the full physical Bible in front.
Do you have verse 2?
No. It's just the potter's house that I have.
Right. Now, the potter, okay, when God talks about the potter, it's in his hands. What is he doing? What do you do? What does a potter do himself?
He's creating. He's creating
something.
Right.
And throughout the Bible, you'll notice that he uses similitudes. Similitudes are something that sounds like this, but it's really talking about this. Yeah. So when God formed us from the dust of the ground, he actually formed us just like he would do as a potter.
Right.
And the thing about God, when he says that he formed, at the potter's house, when he's forming stuff like that, nobody can tell him what to formulate with his hands. So he'll tell you about certain people that he likes. Nobody hears this much. And then he'll tell you about certain people that he does not like. And then he'll say, well, who are you to tell me who made it, who formed it?
Right.
You're going to tell the former who made this thing to make something that you might make something with your hands that might be something that you like. And you might make something with your hands that you make something that you just don't like.
Right.
So that's kind of what he's kind of talking about, being the potter, right?
Right.
And a lot of times we don't really you got a favorite pair of shoes, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So you got your favorite shoes. Well, God has his favorite people. That's why he said that the Israel is my favorite people out of all the people around the earth. Now, the thing about being Israel is like when I was growing up, I didn't know that we were actually the people of the book.
Correct.
I didn't know that we were the Israelites that he loved so much. And I look at us, we was terrible. We still are terrible.
Yeah.
But once you come into the knowledge, right, you'll find out that there is something very, very special. And slavery is in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
When I read that, I was like, yo, that only happened to us.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, these signs here are going to be showing you who my Israel is. And when you talked about, like he's going to be put us in slavery because we did wrong to him, we disobeyed his laws.
Right.
And when you disobey God, he don't just say,
Nah, he's gonna show you. He's gonna show you.
you know about the flood.
Right.
You know about Sodom and Gomorrah.
Mhm.
So, and you're going to know about the thing that's coming up. He said, I'm not going to kill the earth with water anymore.
No.
When I come back, I'm going to do it with fire. So when you take all these things and put them together and stuff like that, you get all of these lessons about what it is to be a person here on earth. And then not only that, what it means to be a chosen person on earth. So I had to take it real serious. I don't want to, bore you cats up or whatever thing like
nah,
this.
and the reason why I asked that because I look at that verse as when you're in the potter's house, you're in your imagination. You're in your imagination at work. You're creating what it is that God is allowing you to create at that moment and at that time.
It's interesting when you say God is allowing you, because a lot of times people don't even understand that God actually gives you a spirit to create.
To create, yes, sir.
And when you look at the people that he says are his favorite people, even though we might be down in the ground, but you'll take a person that doesn't have much. I didn't have a flute. All of a sudden he says, "Flute, take this flute." All of a sudden I didn't know how to play. He said, "Here, boom, here's the spirit of how you play the flute."
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you'll see remnants of how great his people really are with nothing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we don't have the opportunity to have the best schools. We don't have the opportunity to have the best opportunities to be like doctors and lawyers and all. Not saying we can't do it,
Right.
but off the rip, who gets these things? There's certain people that gets these things that are handed down by their fathers, their grandfathers, and they're handed down here. Boom, they got their monies that they handed down from their family. They can come right out of college and come out of high school, go straight to the best colleges,
Right.
have their school, have their car, have their dorms, everything just given to them. They don't have to do a lot of work because they are thinking that they're the chosen ones. But the chosen ones are really the brokenhearted, the chosen ones that have really been beat down. The chosen ones are the ones that have been taken advantage of. The chosen ones are the ones that had all the grace from God and messed it up by not doing his laws. So he said, these people right here, they're going to mess up. I'm going to give them anything that they want. And yet they turned around and said, we don't believe you, God. And we turn around, don't listen to him, and turn around, don't do anything for him. So this is what he does to us. So when you read Deuteronomy chapter 28, it tells you all the blessings that he's going to give his favorite people. And then if they don't listen to him and hearken upon his laws and his commandments, he's going to show you what he's going to do to you, which is going to hurt you and your seed forever. Right? So there it is. And then, boom, now we got to live with all the stuff that's going on there. That's why you see us killing each other. That's why you see us killing our babies in the womb. That's why you see us doing drugs because we've been set down so low. Why? Because in the past, we were doing things that he said don't do.
Right.
Mm.
And then, bam, we didn't do them. So this is our punishment. But all we have to do is learn, come back to Christ. So all we have to do is learn what we've been doing wrong, do his commandments, come back to Christ, and then bam, we're going to see the blessings in the grace of God. We're going to see it. So it's coming.
And that's how we close that. That's how we close that off, Pick. That's how we close it off, bro.
There you have it. Can you end us off with my favorite flute riff of all time? Happy?
Yeah. I'm not going to play it high because I hadn't opened up my flute. I just played the regular.
All right.
So
Ladies and gentlemen.
on the lower level. But before you go, can I play you one of my new songs?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Let me play this. Let me play this piece. This is called Cruise Control.
Nice.
I'm sorry. This is Second Time. It's called Second Time. It's talking about the second time you make your vows to your wife. You've been with your wife all these years, and now you want to do the vows all over again. So I call it Second Time. All right? Here it goes. George Benson's going to sing this song right here. This one right here.
Wow.
I'm only going to play peace for you.
Was it possible to love you even more? Your eyes were like diamonds, oh, red. From the other hand, I get so lost in you, and I'm falling every single time. Now I never let you go. Here we go.
Here we go once again. Feel so blessed. Second time around. Gonna love once again, y'all.
Like that. I can hear him singing that.
Yeah.
You can hear George singing that, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I definitely hear him singing that.
So we're busy doing that kind of thing right now. I just want to give you a little taste of what's happening in the present now. Because
Nice.
we're keeping it moving.
Nice.
Great.
All blessings to the Most High.
Thank you to everybody for tuning into the No Ideas Original Podcast. We'll catch you next week. Thank you, Mr. Conley, for joining us this evening and for your wonderful stories. We appreciate you.
All right, so long, y'all.
Thank you.
Everybody have a good evening.
You better take care.